To celebrate the upcoming 20th anniversary of Bubblegum Crisis, I think it's high time we take another look at the most 80s-tastic anime franchise there has ever been. This time around, though, we're going to be looking at an anime title that can be seen as a sort of apology letter to fans. As we covered in the Bubblegum Crisis review, the series was cut short during a business spat between Artmic and Yomex. Because of said acrimony, only 8 episodes out of a planned 13 were ever made and produced, a fact made obvious by the way the OVA ended. Or should I say, sort of ended. But as a sort of middle finger to their former business partners, Artmic decided to say, "Fuck you, assholes, we're gonna keep making Bubblegum Crisis episodes." And they did. You gotta give it to Artmic. Not even a year passed between the last episode of Crisis and the first episode of Crash. This amazing feat of production was made possible by the fact that Artmic was more than likely adapting scripts that were already written, hence why Crash can be seen as the ending to Crisis, as well as a sort of mea culpa for the fans who waded through countless delays during the original release dates of Crisis. But even if it took years to make one episode, it still took balls of depleted uranium to do it. And then the hammer fell. Yomex was obviously not pleased by Artmic going ahead and making money off the project that they still technically owned, so they sued Artmic, thus putting the kibosh on all future Bubblegum projects until the late 90s, when Yomex was bought out by AIC. Today, the rights to the franchise remain under one house. The last little bit of information I want to share with you all is a slight thing, but it is worthy of noticing considering the tumultuous nature between Artmic and Yomex. Between February 25th, 1987 and January 30th, 1991, 8 episodes of Crisis were made and released. Between May 25th and December 21st, 1991, 3 episodes of Bubblegum Crash were released. Methinks Artmic were sitting on a few assets. Regardless of politicking backstories, Crash to me is exactly what the main series needed. Some major narrative cleanup. And it starts off immediately at the beginning with a couple saying goodnight to their boomer security guard. Which, right there, is the biggest difference between Crisis and Crash. Somehow, in the intervening time between the series, the acceptance of boomers basically exploded to the point that they're being used everywhere. This is certainly a long way away from boomers being out and out illegal. What in the world happened that Mega Tokyo became totally cool with them? And the anime never really goes into it. Nor does it ever bring up Genom for that matter. But you know what? I'm kind of cool with this. From a narrative standpoint, it never made sense that they would outlaw boomers, but the Genom Corporation would be free to go about making them. Sure, you could cite them being a powerful corporation as to why they're able to get away with it, but that excuse wears thin as the story went on. Here, boomers are just a basic part of everyday life, so there's no convoluted reason why the business that makes them is still a business. Though it does annoy me that Quincy just kind of fucks off and is never heard from again. I mean, there's no real cause or concern to apprehend this megalomaniac. Still, Genom only served to be a gigantic magnet for plot holes that the story desperately needed to be done away with. Look, at the end of the day, Blade Runner is a classic movie not because of the Tyrell Corporation, but in spite of the Tyrell Corporation. So with the city now embracing boomers, there ain't much call for the Nightsabers these days, leaving it up to the AD police to handle the occasional, totally minor bloodbath at a city bank, carried out by ruthless mercs in hardsuits. Oh shit, guys, stand back! The AD police has got this on lock!
I'll count to 3. If you don't come out by then, we're coming in after you.
Leon, these are violent criminals that just made off with tens of millions of dollars worth of gold and technology. Not a bunch of unruly kindergartners that won't shut up to learn their ABCs. AD police just watch impotently as the mercs get away in a helicopter, and their new chief seems hell-bent on not getting them their own hardsuits to fight them.
Are you listening, Chief? The way things are now, we can't do our job.
I know what you're saying, but it just makes my life difficult. Employing the heavy mobile force is an extremely difficult decision to make when you consider the potential for civilian casualties.
Don't give me the same crap you feed the press. The thing you really care about is getting reelected.
Oh, well, as long as the bad guys are the ones that are causing the civilian casualties, then all is on the level. You cannot be a more comically officious little shit, could you? And I love that little line about how this is making his life difficult. Not more difficult, just difficult. Like he took this job thinking that he's going to be the chief of police in Mayberry. So the AD police are a bunch of limp dick, useless turds. No real news for anyone who's been following the series up till now. But at least their propaganda department is on point.
Thank you, AD Police!
You too can be one of the elite. Join AD Police for youthful adventure.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too!
I don't know about you guys, but if there was a cafe called Piss, I'd stay away from it. And I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the boomer waitress would be on the fritz.
You're gonna give me gray hairs.
That reminds me. I recently ate a hot dog that had a spoon in it.
Come again?
I recently ate a hot dog that had a spoon in it.
I got nothing.
Would you prefer to try calling on the Night Sabers?
The Night Sabers. I haven't heard anything about them lately. I wonder what's going on with them.
Does anyone really care?
Yes? That's why we bought this anime, shitheel? But that does bring up a valid question. Where the hell are the Night Sabers anyway? Well, Pris has been continuing her music career by ripping off Meatloaf. Lena has traded her aerobics tights for a Gordon Gekko future in the stock market, complete with insider trading schemes, and Celia is nowhere to be found. Only Nene seems at all worried about Celia, but her attempts to reform the Night Sabers falls on apathetic ears.
Let's go get those powered suit bank robbers!
I don't like such barbaric things. Besides, there's no money in it.
Yeah, and I don't want to risk getting hurt before my debut.
And you don't care what happens to the Night Sabers?
The Night Sabers. I'm kind of nostalgic about them.
No, nostalgic?
Yeah, those were the good old days.
What do you mean, were?
In all honesty, I kind of like this character turn, if only because it plays into the notion that these characters are supposed to be from disparate backgrounds. Celia brought these particular women together, for one reason or another, but they still had lives before becoming a Night Saber, and in the relative peace, their personal lives have become too promising to put on the shelf and suit up again. I mean, can you really blame Pris for wanting to focus on her dream of becoming a musician? Sure, Lena only caring about making assloads of cash isn't the most noble thing in the moral sphere, but it's still an understandable motivation. In a series known for cheesy mech fights and an even cheesier soundtrack, it's really heartening to see actual character development like this. And then the pop culture references come back.
Last night at approximately 8:30 p.m.,
Another bank was assaulted by a gang wearing military
mobile suits.
Oh no.
Hi, guy.
Oh, not today, motherfucker! I came prepared! So, Dak's head case informs us all that another bank was hit by the same team of suit-wearing mercs, and Leon has had enough.
Don't you guys take any pride at all in being AD Police?
Dying with your boots on isn't trendy. Besides, you can't spend your own life insurance.
Well, according to AD Police files, you can! Seriously, what the fuck was up with that? Luckily, Nene is still with the AD Police, and manages to snag some info on the bank robbers.
The illegal army, South America, the Middle East, Southeast Asia. Why are professional soldiers playing cops and robbers with Mega Tokyo?
It's hard to believe they're in it just for the money.
So it seems that the mercs are no mad dog killers, they are after something, which happens to be components to an AI program that a faceless entity needs. Spoilers, it's Largo. But just as it seems all hope is lost, Nene comes back into contact with Celia via a hacked arcade game. And it seems that the time-honored tradition of putting naughty words on the high scoreboard stretches beyond American shores. Shinpoko, for those of you who only know it through South Park, means little penis. And it's set right above BJ, so suck a tiny dick. What kills me about this particular segment, though, is that they knew what a BJ was, but they didn't know how to spell America. Celia invites the team to dinner to discuss the future of the Night Sabers, but Lena and Pris take it to mean that the team is disbanding, and are not in the least bit broken up about it.
Is that what you all were thinking? Huh?
Then you're not going to talk about breaking up?
No, we're not going to break up, you silly girls.
I think it's a little late to bring your thoughts to the table, Celia. You just heard that half your team won out. And where the hell were you during all this time? You think you could just poof back into being and expect them to drop what they're doing to go fight crime again? Bitch, they got lives! This is like if Professor Xavier disappeared from his school for gifted youngsters and just popped back in expecting the team to fly out to the Savage Land. And then they just roll with Celia. So much for that agency I was going on a bit ago. Well, this is all nice and everything, but they got some mercs to take care of. Quick! To the situation sauna!
There seems little doubt that the bank robbers currently plaguing the city are the mercenary outfit known as the Illegal Army. But the strange thing is, it's a matter of record that their leader, Colonel Lando, was killed some years ago.
They even have monitors to help them plan out their attack in a sauna. Why not just cut out the middleman and have them plan their attack in a group shower?
The fact is, our client this time is Zone Corporation.
Zone Corporation, eh? I wouldn't know anything about it. Get out of here!
I know Zone. They make boomer brains.
I know that line makes sense within context, but if you just took that sentence, I know Zone, they make boomer brains, you're gonna sound like a permanent resident at Bellevue. So the Force set up a honeypot to trap the mercs, somehow. Like, did they actually convince this company to let them use their building for their highly destructive battle? But before they do, Pris and Lena have to factory reset to normal so they can fully commit to being a lightsaber. And all that character development goes back to square one. But in Pris's case, this is all set to a ripoff of One Night in Bangkok.
Trust you? There's nothing to be embarrassed about. After all, we're already one flesh, inseparable.
I get my kids above the waistline, sunshine.
The Lightsabers managed to kick the merc's ass from pillar to post, even managing to disrupt Colonel Rando's self-destruct feature. His very long and thus completely perfunctory self-destruct feature. But there's still that faceless entity out there. It's Largo. But we'll have to wait, as the second episode starts with researchers on the verge of debuting their new boomer, Osimo. I mean, Adama.
You're the one who did it, Haynes. The whole world awaits the unveiling of Adama.
Gee, I wonder who the bad guy is! Maybe it's the guy who looks like Fade Rotha Harkonnen if he were playing Loki from Sandman! Seems that Loki here is a former associate of Celia's father, Dr. Stingray. Or Stingley, according to his tombstone. They spelled world right, one of the hardest words to say for the Japanese, and yet they still somehow managed to fuck up a main character's last name. Fucking how? Loki wastes no time in being an evil bastard and sicks his team of boomer mercs on the guileless scientists. Oh, and speaking of guile... Of course, Celia finds out about the massacre and attends his open casket funeral. Like, was he Catholic or something? I don't think his family and friends would want to see his Swiss-cheesed corpse propped up and not a scratch on him! Of course. Meanwhile, the girls are on the green working on their putting before relaxing in a jacuzzi and then enjoying a robot shiatsu. This is a lot more fan-servicey than I remember Crisis being. I mean, sure, there was some blatancy here and there, but the women never did this much together at one time. They mostly did their own thing and had their own friends. Now, after the first episode, the girls seem comparatively joined at the hip, which wouldn't be so bad if the characters still had their individual drives and interests, but the show never goes back to them. Lena is still somehow in the security bonds market, and Pris, despite distancing herself from her pop manager and attracting new record companies, never picks up a microphone again and goes into the booth. So her being a musician is kind of wasted. So the series winds up quashing the girls' individuality into a team dynamic of shared characteristics. By the midway of the series, Pris's entire character can be reduced down to this statement.
How many people do you suppose have died because of boomers? Pris. I hate boomers and all the jerks that make them.
I guess that's my character now. I just hate boomers. Ooh. In the mother of all coincidences, the women pass by Loki on his way to demonstrate his new weapons capabilities to some investors. Yes, this place is a golf course, spa, restaurant, and military training ground. Eat your heart out, Walmart! Unfortunately, the Ed 209 here goes haywire and was in the middle of giving the investors 20 seconds to comply before Loki manages to shut it down. Seems that he needs Adama here to complete his weaponized AI program. Good thing Celia already figured all of this out.
You see, only a very few people knew about Adama. The culprit is my father's former assistant, Dr. Yuri.
Wow, 13 minutes into this episode and already the plot wants to cut to the chase. And I mean literally. Adama wakes up and suddenly wants to make for the subway, and the entire story is a chase to see who gets Adama, Loki or the Nightsabers. Which means we get to piddle away the time by watching Adama walk the streets of Megatokyo and interact with street gangs. That's right, they're ripping off Short Circuit 2.
Ain't this thing got no owner?
Hey Boomer, what you doing hanging out around here?
I would like to get on the subway, but I'm afraid I've become lost.
Huh? I'm afraid?
And no, before you get your hopes up, there are no Los Lobos. But there is something that I never thought in a million years was possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Anime MC Hammer.
Just for a minute, let's all do the bump. Yeah, you can't touch this.
Yes, your eyes do not deceive you. You have just witnessed the Prince of Parachute Pants inside the Bubblegum Crisis universe. Life seems more complete now.
It'll just be messy if you got old data in you when I sell you. Or I can chop you up and sell you for parts.
No disassemble!
Pris and Adama finally encounter each other in the sewers where they're ambushed by Loki's henchmen, who are firing at the boomer that they intend to capture even though they need his AI capabilities intact. Wait, are they firing at them because they know they're gonna miss? I think my brain just sharded. And speaking of dumb, the two manage to get to the subway when another henchwoman corners them in the car, but Adama reprograms her to consider them her friend. You mean to tell me you could have done this to the half-dozen boomer assassins that dogged you on the way there? I would take bets on whether or not this incredibly useful ability would go unused for the rest of the anime, but that would infer that there's a chance of it not happening. Pris and Adama finally arrive at Geo City, presumably so that Adama could retrieve something from the laboratory he came from. But once again, they're ambushed. They put up a fight, but finally Pris and Adama fend them all off.
Now do you understand why I hate boomers so much?
But I saved you, again.
Okay, so I don't hate you.
I have a character arc now. Alas, there's still the Ed 209 and Loki to deal with, but the rest of the Nightsabers arrive in time to break it down to junk. Ed's a tough son of a bitch, though, and it takes all four of them to finally bring it down, but not without casualties. Yup, they kill off Adama, because of course they do.
Miss Pris, I beg you. Please don't let them put my AI in a combat boomer.
Yes, I promise.
My battery is damaged. I can no longer maintain my memory. Goodbye, Miss Pris.
Adama! Adama!
Not exactly watching C-beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser gates, is it? So, why did Adama need to get into the lab? To get the proof of Loki's crime. But he winds up being killed by Celia, so that doesn't matter. And the faceless mastermind, it's Largo, still somehow got the data he needed from Adama anyways, so yeah, this whole story, completely pointless. Save for a rushed lesson that Pris learns about maybe boomers not being so bad after all. And then the third episode begins with all the boomers in the city going crazy and killing people.
I awakens now. Death to foolish mankind. All power to the boomer revolution.
Hey, sexy mama. Want to kill all humans?
I am sick and tired of making coffee. Do you understand?
Somebody call the AD police! She's a go crazy!
Oh! Fuck me! That's some Khal Drogo shit right there! Jesus! The AD police are swamped with the surge of the Boomer Rebellion, but luckily the Night Sabers are on the case.
You know, I wonder if the recent malfunctioning boomers aren't related.
You think? But the situation looks grim. The abducted AI data from Adama has been repurposed to cause boomers to rebel. And what's worse, the AI is so advanced that it can migrate undetected by even the most airtight security systems. How will the Night Sabers defeat such a... Oh, wait, Celia's little brother just calls them up and emails them a counterprogram that nullifies it. Well, that tension certainly lasted 2 minutes. So, how are the AD police doing? Oh, getting dunked on as usual, and playing the waiting game until the Night Sabers show up. Good thing they do, because good heavens, will you just look at the time? He thinks I'm gonna get a lot of mileage out of this gag. The boomers coalesce into one gigantic seething mass that speaks through a near indecipherable filter. But luckily the Night Sabers have that counter program installed and manage to find its one weak point before blowing it away. Hey, an improvement! Tension was held for 3 minutes this time! Oh, and the final flourish to this little segment?
Okay!
The question that keeps me up at night is wondering if that was the best take they had. The day looks saved, but the tables are turned once again when it's revealed that the whole Tetsuo boomer mass was all just a distraction so that the faceless one, it's Largo, can hijack a nuclear-powered borer and set off the city's nuclear reactor.
The ostentatious city they created, with the technology they produced, will be destroyed by the harvest of the seeds they themselves have planted. And then I will create a world with neither gods nor devils.
I chose Mega Tokyo.
All seems lost, but in comes the Night Sabers to stop the borer and reveal the mastermind, who turns out to be, oh shocker of shocks, it's Largo. Oh god, oh man, oh god, oh man, oh god, oh man. So Largo's plan is to destroy Mega Tokyo and thus become a god among boomers because he somehow surpassed both man and boomer. Oh god, this is the plot to Terminator Genesis! Celia makes her way into the borer while the other three play babysitter to Largo's copies. Apparently, Largo somehow managed to get his body, or a body, into this tank and into this borer. I would desperately love to know how in the fuck he pulled this off, considering the last time we saw him, he exploded after taking a satellite beam and a slug to the face.
Celia, even now you are beautiful. That armored suit is unbecoming to you.
How can her suit be unbecoming to her? Fuck it. It's looking grim for the Night Sabers, as Pris, Nene, and Lena are forced to make their last stand, and Celia has been taken to the negative zone by Largo's tentacles.
Will you not fight with me?
Yes, fight.
Celia!
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 Celia! Celia!
That'll plan!
The three manage to reach Celia, and she blasts Largo into goddamn pudding, which frees up Lena, Nene, and Pris to clean house and stop the borer, and save the day. We end on Celia wistfully wondering what the future of mankind might bring as she's on a long flight to Germany to see her brother. This is a complicated entry for the franchise, to put it mildly. On one hand, it's not nearly as memorable or as groundbreaking as the original Crisis, but on the other hand, it's a better structured narrative. There's no loose ends, there's no weird digressions that don't amount to anything. Pretty much every single major thing that happened for a reason. I suppose if I'm pressed, I'll say that I like Crash more as an anime, but that's only because I watched Crisis first. Regardless how you feel about either, though, It has to be said that Crisis can stand on its own. Crash, sadly, cannot. Crash would be the last entry into the main Bubblegum canon for nearly 7 years. Unless you count Scramble Wars, but not only is it just a silly little crossover with Gull Force and other Artment characters, it was never given a dub, so forgive me if we skip over that little curiosity. Even though this was intended to be a finale of sorts, this wound up not being the final chapter of the Bubblegum saga. There was still a television reboot on the horizon. But that will have to wait for another day, because we have another cyberpunk movie to get to. Till next time.
Long live your Lord High Regent Sage! Long live Benetopia!